You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
Hi, this is Jim from Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories, at least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Hello. Maybe I should have done the intro again. I don't know. And then done the music. But anyway, here we are. This is our first official program. We were out on last Friday live. Wasn't happy with some elements of that show, so we're not releasing it. At least without some heavy editing. Happy New Year. All right, if you didn't know that already and hear that from me already, something really exciting happened Saturday, at least for my kids and the community and everything else. So, like I say at the beginning here, the intro, we're usually not part of this story, but we were tangentially a little bit involved with this story with Venezuela this weekend. So, in case you've been under a rock or completely offline, because I found some people completely offline, they didn't know anything about the Maduro thing down there, where and of course, though we've been down there all fall, maybe longer, with all the ships and doing this and doing that, whether you agree with it or not, and nobody ever mentioned that this guy had a warrant out for his arrest for 5 years, been wanted by 2 administrations. Joe Biden, on his way out, put a $25 million bounty on the guy. Trump upped it a couple of weeks later, may have been the next day, to $50 billion. Chuck Schumer is screaming and yelling since Trump's last term. While he's still in there, everyone's saying, no, he's done this, he's done that, he's done this, he's done that. Nobody says anything. Now that maybe that context and adding that context by the media, right, and reminding us of that would be good, because we watch stuff here all the time. I don't really have an overriding interest in Venezuela. Maybe I should, but I don't. Now I do. So we were a little part of this. So he was arrested, put on the USS Iwo Jima, somehow made his way up to Stewart Air Force Base up in outside of Newburgh, Orange County, New York. And my kids are watching the show, on Fox News or CNN or something. And they say, oh, look at that, he's going into a helicopter. And then 5 minutes later, we hear this, not like a helicopter. I should have a helicopter sound effect coming through. We go outside, and there he is, right above our house, flying right above our house. Looked like only about 500 foot off the ground in a helicopter, right over our house. So my kids got all excited and everything else. And then, so what does this mean for Venezuela? Means a lot. Not regime change, but there was a leadership change. And this whole thing, who's to know who to believe on this? It's like opinions. They're like opinions. And opinions are like noses. Everyone has one. And unless you've had the COVID virus, they all smell noses here. I had 2 family members that lost their sense of smell completely after the COVID, and 1 coworker. But anyway, they, who's to say what's out there? I don't know how this is going to pan out. My own theory is that they're doing this. You had to get the oil companies back in and to lower the price of oil and energy in this hemisphere, and also put pressure elsewhere in the world, like China, Iran, Russia, with low oil prices and things of that nature. But what? And people say, well, that's bullocks. Well, what's your theory? Well, we don't have one. Well, I'm putting one out there. I don't know. Maybe wrong, maybe right. That seems to be what fits the established facts. Now, going into some of the other stuff here is this. So you want to go, so apparently since everything was totally nationalized, there are 2 phases. The oil fields over there were partially nationalized sometime in the early 90s, mid-90s, that sort of thing. Now we're to the point where we are, I believe it was 2003, 2004, in that time frame, they were totally nationalized. And the production reportedly has dropped by 2/3. Remember, when socialism takes over, often there is a brain drain. So in the mid-90s, they meaning the oil companies, were still recruiting people to go down to Venezuela to work on the drill rigs. How do I know that? Because I was invited down there. I said, no way. Right? I'm not going down there with things. So, path not taken. Anyway, we go down, but no, I do have some experience with drill rigs. I do have some experience with oil in the oil industry, midstream, a little bit of upstream, a little bit of downstream, but mostly midstream. I do know this. With the chemical composition of oil, and a lot of the other attributes, there's a lot of wear and tear on the equipment. We know this from the Gulf oil spill, what the chemical composition is, and everything else. With the exposures and everything to crude oil. Now, a lot of that equipment down there, how long is it going to take? Whether they have refineries, whether they have oil drilling platforms, whether they have whatever, to get the equipment in place, number one. And number two is getting everything up running. It's not like you can just shut this stuff off and sitting there. Presumably, if you have only 1/3 the capacity, that means you have only 1/3 of the equipment working. So if the oil companies go in there, it's going to be years, assuming that they could have a good negotiation down there. It's going to take years down there. The other thing is this. American oil companies, my understanding of environmental law is that if they're operating down there, they're going to meet some type of standard, international standards, things of that nature, because it's all one big group of insurance companies out there insuring this. And so other upstream companies like Hess, BP, ConocoPhillips, they ascribe to environmental standards, health and safety standards, some more effectively than the others. I know we all could talk about certain instances where that didn't happen, and they'll end up with something better than a socialist country operating stuff. Remember, wherever there's socialism, not so much socialism, but communist dictatorships, they really don't protect the common person down there with safety, health, environmental stuff. I know because I did a visit to Eastern Europe right after the fall of communism, and I tell you what, things were horrendous there, still are in some places, but back in the early 90s, horrendous down there. So I can only imagine what the pollution rate is, and I'm sure that any reports down there are going to be totally self-serving by the Venezuelan government. So doesn't necessarily apply. Going on to some other things here, safety-related news. There is a case that I have been following for about 5 years now, 2026, 5 years. And there was major ruling just before Christmas, and it just became publicly available this week. And what it had to do was racism at work or hostile work environment. And the company is being sued for not responding quick enough, is what the plaintiff's argument is, to a racial incident there. And they are using the reasoning, and it's on the internet. I got the actual ruling in hand. We're not going to go over it because I know a lot more than that. I don't want to end up getting sued. And it ends up that the theory is that it's a violation of the general duty clause to not have a hostile work environment that might lead to violence, workplace violence. It's not safe to have racists running around and doing what racists do. Right? So, therefore, as far as the general duty clause, they get the OSHA Occupational Safety and Health Act in there. And they're suing on that basis is one of the bases that they're using. So, I don't know. Some food for thought there with that. So, if you have racists, might not, I don't know how you could legally, or if it is even legal to not have them work there. No, don't hire them. My experience with racism in the workplace is extensive. Why? Because the health and safety officer normally is the person who handles that with smaller companies. HR doesn't want to deal with it. I can tell you that most of the time HR doesn't want to deal with it, even in the 2026 with the DEI world, that again the pendulum is swinging the other way now, anti-DEI, and with all the other laws out there, HR still doesn't like to deal with it because they want to ignore it. Well, that doesn't happen. Sound familiar with safety? We have a great safety program. Yeah, but we have like no, we don't have the right equipment. We don't have this old fall protection. It doesn't meet any type of inspection criteria. Don't worry about it. Don't tell us about that. Hey, we have this unsafe condition. Don't worry about it. It's good. How many times do we hear that on these projects? So I'm going to tell you, if you have racists on site and they are doing what racists do, got to be addressed. The other thing is this. Is your safety on the job site inequitable? And by that, I mean certain companies get the resources, certain employees get the resources, certain employees don't. So have I been on jobs where you have an African American not getting the right safety equipment, the safety training, or anything else? Absolutely. And the white employees do get the right equipment, the right training, and everything? Absolutely. Happens, with that. One of the more effed up, for lack of a better situations, was on a mercury cleanup where, and I wasn't involved in the project, but I heard about it from one of the employees who came to my project and had some questions on this. And they had gotten on and found out that I was involved in the Grand Street Mercury cleanup in Hoboken, New Jersey for, I think it was 6.5 years out there. And they said, Jim, we found out that you know something about mercury based on LinkedIn or something like that. And I said, yeah, I know a little bit. I know about mercury. And the guy says, well, he says, well, on the last job I was on, they said the mercury wasn't dangerous because we didn't smell it. And we were doing an environmental cleanup. As long as you don't smell it, it's safe. I said, well, mercury vapor is odorless. He said, really? I said, yeah. I said, in reality, I've worked around it enough and with it enough that the air quality does change a little bit, but most people wouldn't know that because I have a mercury vapor analyzer. And, you're able to, okay, well, when you reach half the PEL, there's a air quality change and it's discernible. I wouldn't know that without a friggin' meter on that. And that's the only way you can really reliably detect mercury. And that's what don't just go behind the meter, right? A properly calibrated meter with that. And he said, really? Holy crap. And it turns out that all the African Americans did not get that information. And those are the ones doing the work. Those are the folks doing the work. Happens, and it's subtle. A lot of this stuff is subtle. It has to do with training. It has to do with how things are managed, right? So I'm always trying to get the former Governor McGreevey on here, who never been able to do that, where he was doing re-entry program work, where people would be in rehab, in prison or whatever, and they would get re-entry. And almost Sanamon couldn't really schedule it. But one of the things is people in the reentry program, and we know in the United States we have disproportionate numbers of African Americans and poor whites and other races and other ethnic groups that are in disproportionately in prison. So what ends up happening is when they get out of prison, nobody wants to hire prisoners. So what do they end up doing? How do we get around this? Oftentimes, they create an LLC, or they have a family member, close friend, close associate, hire an LLC, and then what happens is a company, usually construction, maybe doing menial type of work, cleaning companies, or they hire companies to clean processes at night for the night shift. They go and they hire the company, not the person. So they get around OSHA regulations because now we're hiring, well, at least they think they do. They really don't. They think they get around things because they say, I did not hire John Smith. I don't know, right? I'm just picking a name out of air there. I didn't hire John Smith. I hired ABC company, and I'm just throwing that out of it, right? Or Acme company, this company, to do X, Y, and Z. I didn't know that they were a criminal. I didn't know that they hired. What do I know? And then claim ignorance. And then on top of that, they feel that, well, now we don't have to manage their OSHA compliance or anything else. And by the way, they may be the self-employed. So therefore, since they're self-employed, our check is going to a company, not to them personally. They're self-employed. They don't have to comply with any safety regulations. And that's what happens is those things don't get reported, unless it's a horrific accident. You never hear about it. So they don't get the training, they don't get anything. They don't even, so in that case, they don't even have to pay taxes on those people. They're just writing them a check. And we don't know. Well, we plead ignorance. That kind of stuff goes on. And that's what we got. So we're opening up things here. Let's go to our first commercial break. And we are going to go and play. I pre-recorded a video on this book, How to Deal with Toxic People. So that's what I went over on Friday night. I did not like how it came out, so we re-recorded it. We're going to insert it right here. For Safety Wars, this is Jim Polzel, and we're going to come back with you after the video. It's like 8 minutes long, something like that.
Safety Wars is streaming now.
SafetyFM.com.
Have you listened or watched the Safety War show? It does stream live on the radio and on the streamer-emers that we have. So if you have not taken a listen to Jim Polzel and what the hell he's doing every evening with Safety Wars, I would strongly encourage you to take a view or take a listen, whichever option is available for you, and take a listen to what the hell he has going on. It will take some deep dives and some information that you might.
Is your safety training old, stale, and hackneyed? Is your safety trainer still preaching a warped version of behavior-based safety? How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call Jim Polzel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces. Said previously, I was in CVS and I found this book. Guy by the name of Gregory Jantz with Keith Wall. How to Deal with Toxic People. I was waiting for my flu shot because we have a real bad flu situation here in New York. And I was like, probably need to get the flu shot on this one, right? Regardless of what your opinion is or regardless of anything else. So what I ended up doing was I found that book and that's there. I'm waiting. There's a line of people there. And what do you know? So I started reading this. I said, man, this is a great thing. So I am going to go into how to deal with toxic people, at least with these people. And it's a dual thing. One, the book is how to deal with toxic people, but first you have to be able to identify who those toxic people are. And the other thing is, if you want to be really introspective, figure out whether you are one of those toxic people. And that's just the way it is. So we are doing a side-by-side here. So here we go. How to deal with toxic people. So number one, right? This is how you know this, right? Truth telling is not a high priority. Even slight variations on what you know to be the truth or a careful omission of relevant facts is enough to put the person on your watch list. Number two, a lack of emotional intelligence. This term parallels the well-known concept of intelligence quotient, highlighting the idea that emotional quotient, EQ, is essential for successful relationships. EQ qualities include the ability to manage emotions, connect with others using verbal and nonverbal communication, express empathy, use humor to deal with challenges, and resolve conflicts positively. Toxic people lack these vital skills. The person talks too much. We're on number 3, and listens way too little. Dominating the conversation often signals insecurity, self-centeredness, or narcissism. They always need to be right, no matter how big or how small the topic. The toxic individual doesn't allow room for differing opinions and turns a discussion into a debate that must be won. How many people do you know who do that, right? There's constant drama. Some people attract and maybe need consistent episodes of crisis, conflict, and clamor. They seem to thrive on having a big personal mess to clean up and feel uncomfortable with a calm routine. How many people jump from crisis to crisis to crisis? It doesn't mean that you're an evil person, any of these things. It's just that you're toxic, right? Don't assume that everybody's always evil if they have these negative traits. Don't consider that about yourself. Hey, there's always time to correct and improve. There are signs of addiction or dependency. If left unaddressed, compulsive behavior involving alcohol, drugs, gambling, pornography, and other addictive things, exercise could be one of those, is sure to damage many aspects of the individual's life, including your relationship. Conversation is salted with sarcasm. I know that's a big thing coming from us here at Safety FM with radio sarcasm, right? We've been called that. But derogatory comments and cunning humor, even if you aren't the target, signal a lack of empathy or a need to prove superiority. How many people like to put other people down? We have that thing called destructive criticism, right? Not constructive, but destructive criticism. The person has a victim mentality. All of his or her problems are someone else's fault. It can be anything from an unreasonable boss, unloving parents, lousy roommate, the government. Constant blame shifting usually demonstrates a lack of personal responsibility. Service workers are treated poorly, rude, insensitive behavior towards any type of service worker. With that, reveals an arrogant attitude. His or her stories seem grandiose. Unlike us, all of our stories are true here, but we changed some of the details. Exaggerations about accomplishments, acquaintances, and adventures demonstrate a need to brag, which is a sign of a shaky self-esteem. The person tries to control you. If you feel pressure to act and think according to someone else's wishes rather than your own, you're in the presence of a hazardous material zone, right? So control, and there's all different ways that you could try to control the situation with things. I had a former colleague, thank God he's a former colleague. His whole thing was not to take care of his health, so he's always in a health crisis. And like I said, all of that is from How to Deal with Toxic People from Gregory Jantz, PhD. And with that, so that's what I'm going to recommend you go to. And remember, fighting that safety war means also you have to identify what the issues are. So we'll see you soon on the show. And like us, follow us, soon subscribe to us if things will go as planned. And I'll see you on the next episode of Safety Wars. So just to let you know, I receive inquiries all the time. I am doing a project this weekend, training class on maritime safety. So for the maritime outreach program. So if interested in that sort of thing, give us a call. What else do we have going on here? All right, we're going to go and we're going to do a share screen, and we're going to go over some Department of Labor stuff and EPA stuff, a lot of activity here with this. Some of it OSHA related and safety related, some of it is not, but we have to cover this stuff because nobody else is freaking doing it. I'll be honest with you here. So here we have here. All right, this is from Department of Labor in the newsroom. So this is from yesterday. Boom, boom, boom. So anyway, here, January 2nd, we talked about this on Friday night. So we'll talk about it tonight here too. So difficult when you don't have an engineer. The U.S. Department of Labor awards over $550K to help workers affected by layoffs at Northern Massachusetts tool manufacturer. This is the L.S. Starrett Company. I tell you what, I have a lot of experience with this through my father and brother who were tool and die makers. So what they do is they make precision measuring tools along with other things, right? But primarily they list measuring tools. So different micrometers and things of that nature with that. And bottom line is they had layoffs last year, June 30th, and they're now releasing $551,000 plus to Massachusetts support employment and training services for workers affected by layoffs. With that, so good luck to them. I mean, I can't imagine what their market is like after the tool and die making and machine work, right? Industry has gone down. I hope they hopefully were able to pivot on that because that's one of my earliest memories of working with tools or with them with that brand. They used to have a office in Kenilworth, New Jersey. That we always used to pass by there, and that closed down, I believe, a number of years ago. So here we have 6 opinion letters to address employee classification. Not going to go through all of them, but one of them is with classification here, and the other one is with Family and Medical Leave Act. Now, I was discussing this with some of the other people, and we're going to pivot here with this. We don't really do a lot of advocacy other than we advocate for safer workplaces. And if there's different government policies out there, we talk about the different government policies. But one of the things that absolutely has to be reformed, and there needs to be a movement for this, is the Fair Labor Standards Act. Because I tell you what, companies use this often and they abuse it. Now they follow the law, but right? So I know of organizations where they were paying people hourly wages. Right? And they said, okay, how can we save money on this? Because And the logical thing is that if people are working 12 or 14 hours a day, you're understaffed or you're assigning them too much work, right? And they're paying people on an hourly basis, also known as non-exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And they say, well, can we put them on salary? Oh, yeah, let's write their job description, get the attorneys to lawyer it up a little bit, and now all of a sudden they're salaried workers doing the same freaking job, not supervising anyone or anything else, and now they're salaried workers. In the safety industry, where do we get into this? We have an overabundance of checklists, and we are not given any leeway. We don't have the authority to hire. Better have this in your contract, by the way, right? Because it could be your get out of jail free card, especially in places like New York. I'm not giving you legal advice. We don't have the authority to hire, fire, discipline, make changes, and we're not in charge of the bidding process or budgeting or anything like that. All right. And people say, why do you put that in? Potentially it shields me from liability, even if I'm a direct hire on that. But No, you're not. The safety industry, you're doing checklists, you're doing this, you don't have any professional discretion at all. But they'll pay you a salary when they're paying you salary when you probably should be an hourly worker or a non-exempt worker on that. And I think the Fair Labor Standards Act needs to be reformed, and somebody out there, hopefully, in our audience, will take that bull by its horns on that, because I think the American worker is getting screwed a lot of times because of how this act is enforced and how this act is written. So here we go. Jim, shut up and get to the thing, right? So this is from last week. This letter responds to a request from an opinion regarding a reclassification from exempt to non-exempt status, right? Despite your belief that you continue to satisfy. So this is the other thing, right? And this is also part of this with the Department of Education with the loans, where they recently said, well, they reclassified things as professional or non-professional, and they're not giving out as much money in loans for that stuff. So certain medical professions are now not professional anymore. It's not a professional degree. And it is, in our opinion, that under the circumstances presented, the discontinuation of supervisory responsibilities would not preclude your classification as an exempt learned professional. Although your change from being paid on a salary basis to being paid on an hourly basis will likely defeat the exemption. Moreover, even if you do meet the test for the learned professional exemption, your employer may nonetheless choose to classify you as non-exempt. So this person is a licensed clinical social worker for a healthcare organization. Since receiving her, I'm assuming this is a female, may not be. Since receiving your professional license in 2018, you state that your employer has classified you as salaried, meaning exempt employee. You assert that your core job duties include clinical assessments, psychosocial evaluations, treatment planning and documentation, participation in interdisciplinary care teams, crisis intervention and discharge planning, and consistent application of professional discretion and judgment in your clinical decisions. In 2020, you became a supervisor and assumed supervisory roles. You state that your employer has recently undergone an internal restructuring and advised you that you would be reclassified to hourly, non-exempt, and that your supervisory role would be discontinued. Consequently, you state that your employer has decided to reclassify your position from exempt to non-exempt on the basis that you are no longer a supervisor. You assert your role continues to be clinical and aligned with FLSA's exemption for learned professionals in accordance as defined by Code of Federal Register. Although you do not provide any additional information on the academic prerequisites, you say that you are an LCSW in the state of Utah, which requires a master's or doctoral in social work. Now, my first question is this. If this were to happen to me, how would Jim Posel, the safety warrior, how would he handle this? First thing I would do is call my friggin' accountant. How is this going to affect my bottom line? Before I go and start complaining, hopefully this person did this and they felt that they were getting a better deal as a salaried employee versus a hourly, being paid by the hour, which includes time and a half for overtime. It all depends on what the situation is. Again, context drives behavior. Some people get hung up on this, with this, where they say, well, according to your work history, when you go for a new job, you are only a salary, you're a non-exempt employee. Therefore, you're not supervisory material. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. Well, guess what? That's not true. But some employers look at that way. Is that what's happening here too? I'm a very much, in case you haven't noticed over the 500 plus programs, I'm a pretty much a bottom line person with this. I know in the safety industry, I've worked Let me think. One of the reasons why I went out on my own was I was being paid salary and I was being screwed. Now, work 80 hours a week and get paid 40 hours a week. I was getting screwed. Every employer was doing this. So I was on salaried for 8 years out of the first 10 years that I was in the industry. And basically, I was screwed 8 years. 8 years. I was screwed 7 years out of this. Now, someone would say, well, you have to have buy-in, you have to have this, you have to have that. Well, benefits weren't the best. They were pretty good, not the best. But the thing is, if you're working an 80-hour weekend getting paid for 40, there's something wrong here. And your employer doesn't want to negotiate. You got to do what you got to do with that. So they talk about minimum wage with that. Your primary duty necessitates a requisite of advanced knowledge and academic requirements to qualify you as an exempt, learned professional. Again, what's the bottom line with this? And with it, what financial and everything. Some people have pride. Well, we're going to have pride. Well, I'm this, I'm that. Well, guess what? Take pride and take it to the bank and pay the freaking bills with pride. You got to be worried about your freaking bottom line, right? Because if you don't have that, it's like it's almost like a pathological situation here. Right? It's like pathological altruism. It's not good. Well, I'm going to go and I'm going to be... well, guess what? You got to be worried about your bottom line. It's almost like you have these influencers out there, right, that are not making a lot of money doing what they're doing, but, hey, I'm an influencer. Look at me. Guess what? Take that to the freaking bank somewhere with that. And I think a lot of our safety work out there is menial work and would not be, from my reading, would not meet the exempt from overtime requirement. So what am I saying? Long story short, this is one law that needs some updating. Obama updated some of the regulations. I agreed with him on it. That was like one of the best things he did with that. And the other one, idiotic thing out there is non-paid internships. Because how many times have we seen people get effed around? And again, that's a racist thing, too. Because it's usually the people who are wealthy, right, can afford to not work a year. Or their parents, or so they're independently, they can afford not to collect a salary for an internship. Where poorer families, now you got a student loan, you got this, you got that, shit costs more money, and you can't afford to do an internship, so it precludes you from a lot of the really high-paying jobs out there. Let's say the financial services industry being one. So here we have, and they remember that employees may use leave under the Family Medical Leave Act for work time spent in medical appointments, either related to their serious medical conditions or those of a qualifying family member. You requested an opinion from the Wage and Hour Division regarding whether FMLA leave may be used for time spent traveling to or from such medical appointments. For the reasons set forth below, an employee may use FMLA protected leave that counts against his or her FMLA entitlement to travel to or from a medical appointment for a serious health condition. Additionally, a healthcare provider need not provide an estimate of the employee's travel time to and or from an appointment for the medical certification to be complete and sufficient under the Act. Right? You indicate that you have an eligible employees who take planned, intermittent, and reduced schedule FMLA leave to attend medical appointments related to their own serious health condition or serious health condition of a qualifying family member. The employees attend medical appointments at various locations, including those that are some distance from their homes and workplaces. You provide an example of an employee who requested intermittent leave to attend medical appointments for a serious health condition was presented a medical certification in which the physician certifies the appointments will occur once per month for 45 minutes. In addition, although this employee indicated that he or she needs to be 1 hour travel to or from the doctor's office, the medical certification does not address the travel time. And it goes through the whole thing. So the conclusion, an eligible employee may use FMLA leave that counts against his or her entitlement to travel to or from a medical appointment for a serious health condition, whether or not the medical certification indicates the need for time required or other particulars of such travel time. So with that, so those are some letters of interpretation there on that. Check them out. With that, those are issued yesterday. So today, the U.S. Department of Labor released a forecast notice announcing the upcoming availability of $145 million to support pay-for-performance incentive payments program to further expand the National Apprenticeship Program. The initiative, sorry I didn't share that last thing, I didn't realize that. The initiative, which represents the most significant investment taken to date in response to President Trump's directive to meet and exceed 1 million active apprentices nationwide, is built on a pay-for-performance model, ensuring taxpayer dollars deliver measurable outcomes. Here we have a court orders a California construction contractor to pay $770,000 in back wages, damages, and damages after federal investigation finds minimum wage and overtime violations. The U.S. DOL has obtained a consent judgment require an drywall construction contractor to pay $790,000 in back wages, damages, and penalties after a federal investigation found the employer failed to pay the federally required minimum wage and overtime up to 580 workers. My question is this: what were the status? We're missing some context here with this here. The court action follows an investigation by the department into a company. Right, federal investigators found that the employer did not accurately keep records of hours worked, including pre- and post-shift work, travel between job sites, or work performed on Saturdays. The employer also neglected to pay workers the required overtime rate of 1.5 for all hours worked over 40 hours in a work week, resulting in a Fair Labor Standards Act minimum wage and overtime violation. Even when employers pay workers on a per-unit basis, they must track the hours of those employees' work and pay overtime when they exceed 40 hours in a work week. And so basically, you got to pay people appropriately here. Federal court orders California agricultural employer to comply with law after crash kills and injures 7. It kills 7, injures another during a transportation to work site. Federal court has ordered a California-based agricultural employer and its owners to pay back wages and penalties after a U.S. Department of Labor investigation determined the employer neglected to transport agricultural workers in safe vehicles related to a deadly crash, a violation of federal law. The court action follows an investigation of the department's Wage and Hour Division into a company after a February 23, 2024 fatal vehicle crash that claimed the lives of 7 employees and severely injured another. The division found that the company violated Migrant and Seasonal Agricultural Work Protection Act by failing to ensure agricultural workers were transported to and from their field sites in safe vehicles and using unlicensed drivers and vehicles without adequate insurance coverage. Wow. The employer also charged the workers a transportation fee, which investigators deemed illegal because of the violations associated with the transportation of the workers. The division calculated that employers owed $39,000 plus in back wages to 12 employees. The employers also failed to disclose workers' permanent addresses and employer identification numbers on wage statements. So, $89,000 plus in civil monetary penalties and $39,000 plus in back wages. So that's basically, they harvest grapes. So with that, okay, moving on. We already talked about that. We mentioned that. And let's move on to EPA news. Now, one of the things that the EPA is doing here, let's start with this story. EPA fulfills, this is from the last year, December 29th, statutory obligation. Now, one of the things, the thing, and this is not the only place I've read about it with other regulations. The government is right now under Donald Trump is only enforcing things that they're legally required to do, and this is not the first time I mentioned it here, because here we have EPA fulfills statutory obligation, meaning that they were not necessarily going to do this, is what the implementation, but it is a statutory obligation. It completes reviews at 32 Superfund sites across New Jersey, New York, and Puerto Rico. Again, a lot of money is spent, has been spent, doing things above and beyond what the statutory requirements are. At least that's the opinion. And they have limited use, meaning limited utility, limited whatever you want to call it, effectiveness, and utility, anything like that. So they have adopted an approach where we're going to go and obey the law, follow the law to the letter. So, and that's how this is written. As required by law, every 5 years, EPA conducts reviews at Superfund sites following the implementation of a cleanup. This comprehensive review of previous works helps ensure that EPA continues to evaluate the performance of cleanup efforts and determines whether any further action to protect human health and the environment is required. The 5-year review for each of the sites are available on EPA's website. So I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with some of these. Here we have from New Jersey, right? In Myersville, that's an asbestos place, Helen Kramer landfill in Gloucester, not Gloucester, Gloucester County. Hercules in Gibbstown, I'm a little bit familiar with that. Jackson Township, Burlington, the landfill. Jackson Towers in Mount Laurel, King of Prussia, Winslow Township, Camden County. And here, this one was right in my backyard almost, where I grew up in Middlesex County. Let's see if this will come up, because some of these documents don't want to come up. And let's see if we do this. Copy. And let's go to the other browser here. And see what we got. Maybe the document's bad. We should have the Jeopardy theme here. All right, here we go. So this came up. Well, let's share screen here. All right. So this is out of EPA Region 2 in New York. Right, and this was issued on August 1st of last year. With this, so they released it a lot later than put it on the website a lot, right? So this is located in Flemington and Piscataway Township in Middlesex County. I know where this is. The site is about a half a mile north of Interstate 287 and is bounded by Conrail. And the site encompasses 40 acres and is divided into two areas. here. So with this, and this is essentially how this goes. It's a 40-some page document here. And I tell you what, these things are great in a teaching aid with this. Right. So what's the contamination here? And they tell you all about the geology. And now this is what's really valuable here. ChemSol Incorporated operated a solvent recovery and waste processing facility beginning in the 1950s and ending in 1964. Due to the recovery and processing activities included operations as mixing, blending, and distillation during its time of operation. The site experienced numerous accidents, fires, and explosions from storage use processing of flammable materials. Remember, before modern environmental rules, this is what happened. In these incidents, Township of Piscataway ordered the facility closed, and the site has remained unused since 1964. In 1978, it was rezoned from industrial to residential. However, the site remains undeveloped. I'm familiar with this location here with this, right? So, again, great things. Here are the substances. We have basically some aluminum and barium were the metals here. And then we have BTEX and other volatiles and trichloroethylene, which is normally a cleaner, and some other stuff. So, and other cleaners here with this. And this gives the whole history here of the site. It's great information. So if you're a high school student or you know one, they're looking to do a report, this might be one of the things that they go to. I know I wish I had this when I was in college the first time. And it gives the whole history of this site. And the whole history of this site there. Okay, so here we have the site right here. So, right, so here we have the purple line here is Route 287, and right here, and how do you read a topo map? All right, so everyone thinks about a lot of stuff, and again, you could go with the lines on it, the gradient lines. There's another word for them, contour lines on here. That's where most people stop. So when this map was originally developed, probably sometime shortly before or after World War II, can't really make it out here. And then what happened was the government, through aerial photograph, now it's probably through satellite, used to photograph every square inch of the United States that was occupied every 10 years or so, 10, 15 years, if memory serves me right. And then someone would go back and put in purple for an update. So being that the 287 is purple on here, which is, if you see where my cursor is, that would indicate, and that 287 was, this is pre-1960, basically the original map in all likelihood. Don't quote me on it. Oh, here it is, 1966. I think it is. I photo revised in 1984, so it's either 55 or 66. Can't tell. So, again, so anyway, that's what's going on with that. Sorry for that, but people sending me stuff when they know I'm on the air. We're never going to get around that. So basically, a lot of these sites, they're very, no, I know where most of these are. Now, so over here in New York is much larger. And do we have anything here in New York that looks interesting? The Ramapo landfill, that's right around the corner from me. Here. There used to be a community there called the Ramapo Jackson Whites, believe it or not. Look it up. My father worked with a couple of people that were Jackson Whites, what they call them, back in the day. It's the only reason why I know about them. Okay, address invalid. All right, so here we go. This is Ramapo, same guy, Paul Evangelista, issuing this. Municipal waste was accepted in the landfill until 1984, and C&D debris was accepted until 89 here. And it gives the whole history. So, I probably should share this on some of the Rockland pages here. So that's what I got for tonight. And I will hopefully see you tomorrow night. For Safety Words and Safety FM, this is Jim Posel. Good night. Hope I have a safe day. So, with that, all right.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.